The morning my sister announced my resignation to the entire company, I was standing 10 feet behind her holding the award she had just accepted in my name. She didn't see me at first. The applause was too loud. The champagne glasses were already raised. After careful discussion, she told the board with polished confidence, Elena has decided to step away for personal reasons. As acting creative director, I'll be ensuring continuity. Personal reasons. The only personal thing involved was betrayal. I didn't interrupt her speech. I let the lie settle. There's a specific kind of silence that comes before a collapse. I've always preferred to build mine carefully. My name is Elena Whitmore, and the company my sister had just repositioned herself to control wasn't just a business. It was the London-based design consultancy I built from my kitchen table at 24. 8 years of unpaid invoices, investor rejections, and 3 a.m. breakdowns later, Whitmore Collective had offices in London and New York. And somehow my younger sister Ava had just convinced the board that I was unstable. It started 6 months earlier when I confided in her about burnout. Not weakness. Burnout. There's a difference. I told her I was considering restructuring leadership to scale sustainably. She nodded sympathetically. She offered to temporarily help with investor relations. I thought I was being smart by delegating. I didn't realize I was handing her a narrative. Emails began shifting tone. Investors CC'd her instead of me. Meetings were rescheduled without my knowledge. Then came the whispers that I was emotionally overwhelmed, that I'd become difficult in negotiations. Nothing dramatic, just subtle erosion. The board called a private review. Ava presented compiled concerns. Missed calls, delayed responses, erratic decision-making. He had screenshots. Out-of-context messages. Fragments of my worst week repackaged as instability. The board didn't fire me. They suggested a temporary leave. And that's when I understood something chilling. Ava didn't want my job. She wanted my credibility. Because in our family, success wasn't celebrated. It was competed with. Growing up in Manchester, Ava was always described as charismatic. I was described as intense. She thrived in rooms. I built the rooms. She learned early that charm moves faster than competence. So when she stood there announcing my resignation, what hurt wasn't the lie. It was how easily everyone believed it. I walked forward slowly, placing the award on the table beside her. The applause faded into confusion. I'm not resigning, I said calmly. Her smile didn't falter. Elena, we discussed. No, I replied. You discussed. The board looked uncomfortable. Investors avoided eye contact. Nobody likes conflict when champagne is involved. So I did what Ava never expected. I agreed to the leave. Not because I was defeated. Because I needed distance to see the architecture clearly. For the next 3 months I disappeared publicly. No interviews. No statements. Industry blogs speculated about breakdowns and internal conflict. Ava stepped fully into leadership. She rebranded the company tone. Flashier campaigns. Faster expansions. Louder promises. I watched everything quietly. What Ava didn't understand was this. Whitmore Collective's contracts were structured around founder oversight. Major licensing agreements required my signature. Strategic partnerships were tied to my intellectual property filings. I had built safety triggers into every expansion clause years ago after our first investor tried to strong-arm control. Back then, Ava laughed at my paranoia. Now it was leverage. While she was chasing visibility, I was reviewing governance. I hired an independent compliance auditor in New York. Not to attack her. To verify what I already suspected. In her rush to prove herself, Ava had overextended. She approved a high-risk expansion into luxury retail without proper liquidity buffers. She signed influencer partnerships without legal vetting. She promised deliverables our internal teams couldn't sustain. Growth without infrastructure isn't ambition. It's vanity. I didn't expose her immediately. That would have looked retaliatory. Instead, I waited for the annual stakeholder summit in London, the same stage where she had announced my resignation. The room was packed. Investors from New York. Clients from across the UK. Press lined along the back wall. Ava opened confidently, presenting record engagement metrics and projected 40% growth. Then came the Q&A. I stood up. The silence was instant. I have a clarification regarding expansion compliance under Section 4.3 of our founder-structured agreements, I said evenly. The board members shifted. Ava blinked once. Specifically, I continued, the requirement that any market expansion exceeding 25% liquidity exposure must be approved by the original IP holder. The screen behind her still displayed growth projections. She tried to pivot. Elena, this isn't the forum. It is, I said gently. Because investors deserve full disclosure. I connected my laptop to the presentation system. Slides appeared. Documentation. Signatures. Risk exposure analysis. Overextension percentages. Legal vulnerabilities. No insults. No raised voice. Just data. Then came the final slide. A contingency activation notice already filed with corporate registry. Effective immediately, all expansion initiatives would be paused pending compliance review. And since founder IP oversight had been bypassed, interim leadership would revert until corrective action was complete. Which meant me. The room didn't erupt. It recalibrated. Investors leaned forward instead of away. Questions shifted direction. Ava's confidence cracked for the first time. Later that evening she confronted me privately. Not angry. Taken. You planned this, she whispered. No, I replied. I prepared for you. That's the difference. Revenge is emotional. Preparation is strategic. Over the next quarter I stabilized operations. Cut reckless partnerships. Rebuilt internal trust. Quietly implemented governance reforms that made future manipulation impossible. Ava wasn't publicly humiliated. I refused to become what she accused me of being. Instead, she was reassigned to a role aligned with her strengths. Public relations. Visible. Contained. Accountable. The press reframed the story as founder returns to reinforce stability. They never knew how close the company had been to implosion. Months later, during a BBC Business interview, the host asked, "What did stepping away teach you?" I smiled. That not everyone who stands beside you is building with you. Pause. And never confuse charm for competence. Because the truth is, Ava didn't try to destroy me. She tried to replace me. And that only works if you built nothing solid to begin with. I didn't lose my company. I let her test its foundations. They held. And so did I.